So, before we delve into the detail of the working week sales process, we need to understand what we're doing and how we're using the process to influence our customers. And to do that, we need to understand what motivates customers to buy. So we need to look at it from a customer's perspective. I mean, you may have heard this already. If you're going to be successful in sales, you need to look at it from the other person's point of view and really work out why what you're asking them is going to benefit them. So, quite simply, and this is based on stuff that's been presented over the years, when do customers buy? So customers buy when the payoff from what you're asking them is greater than the hassle of implementing the change. And by hassle, I mean the cost. So it could be the cost. If you're asking them to do something, but it's too expensive. Or often in professional selling, business-to-business selling, you're offering a service which will change radically what that person's doing. And to do that, it's going to involve a huge amount of effort and hassle on their part. And often they don't want to do that. But what you always have to do is you have to tip the scale so the urgency of a situation and the desire from that person is greater than the hassle of doing it. Because if the hassle is greater and the cost is too high, the effort's too high, people will do nothing. And the truth is, this is the majority of the time. The majority of the time, people in business-to-business settings and scenarios cannot be bothered to do what you're asking them because the payoff isn't big enough. It's not personal enough to them. So, when do customers buy? So, when the perceived urgency of a situation, and notice that word perceived, I'm going to come on to it in a second, is greater than the hassle and cost of implementing that change. So, it's simple really. It really is. So, as I just said, if something is really worth it, they'll do it. And if something seems like too much like hassle and hard work, they won't do it. Simple as that. But let's go back to what we were talking about earlier. Let's go back to the Socrates method of interrogating an argument. So that word perceived, the perceived reality that customer has, may be based on false assumptions. The belief that is supporting this perceived reality that they haven't got any needs, that everything's fine, and what you're asking them is too much like hard work, they won't do anything. So you need to be able to challenge those assumptions so that you can change that belief and change that perceived reality, because it is a perceived reality at the end of the day. So let's look at the logical reasons people buy from us. Let's actually look at the three main logical reasons that someone will do something. First, finance. So finance, basically what that customer's thinking is, will it make me some money or will it save me some money? Financially, will this benefit me or my organization in some way? And if you can say yes to that, then that is a logical reason why someone might buy from you. Performance. Will what you're offering do the job better than what they're currently using? Because if that's what's driving them right now, if they're looking for something that's going to do something better, more efficiently, just faster, then again, that's a strong logical reason why someone is going to buy from you. Image. Massive one, and this strays into the next territory we're going to be talking about. I put this down as logical, but this now strays into the emotional side of why people buy things. Image. So, will it make me look good? Will making this decision make me look good in front of my peers? Will it make me advance my career by making a really clever decision? If we're talking about procuring a product or a service for a large organisation. On a more simple level, it's the case of why people buy iPhones rather than the cheaper thing that will do exactly the same job. Image is everything. People want to look good. If you have the brand new iPhone, everyone knows that's an expensive luxury item, and it makes you look good. It makes you have a strong personal image, and that is a huge motivator into why people buy. However, do people always buy for logical reasons? Have a think about it. Maybe even pause the video for a moment. Do people always buy for logical reasons? Well, I can tell you after 20 odd years of first-hand experience, no, they don't. There have been perfectly good logical reasons satisfying all three of those logical reasons why somebody might do something in terms of the product I've had working for one of these big blue chip companies. and they've still made a decision that didn't make sense. They've made a decision which you can't work out. In every way, you have a product that is superior to your competitions, which will make them some money, save them some money, it will perform better than what they're currently using, and it'll even make them look good. They still don't do it, and it's puzzling. Why is that? Why does that happen? We need to go behind the logic and uncover what's driving that need. That's ultimately what we need to do, because I don't know if you've read the book by Professor Steve Peters, The Chimp Paradox, Mind Management System. Fantastic book. He talks about in this book that we have in our mind a model that he presents in this book, whereby we have the logical grown-up mind. So we have the mind that's rational. We have the mind that in our wakeful moments, in our sensible moments, is the thing that makes decisions. And then we have what he calls a chimp mind. Now, he's just using it as a model, so that we can call it all sorts of other things. And I strongly recommend you buy the book. It's a great book, and it's really, really, really worth a read. Not just in terms of sales and your own personal growth, but just it explains a lot of things really, really simply and carefully. I really, really like this book. But he talks about the chimp brain, and in it he says the chimp brain, which is the sort of the emotional, non-logical brain, is 10 times more powerful than the logical brain. It's the reason people smoke still. So you can have highly intelligent people who still smoke cigarettes. They know it's going to kill them. They know it's going to ultimately lead to other diseases such as cancer and all sorts of things. But the emotional chimp mind wants to do it. I want to do it. I like doing it. It makes me feel rebellious. I want to look sexy. They still have this unconscious belief that we're talking about, this perceived reality that smoking cigarettes is going to make them look more attractive. Maybe, I don't know. But the point is we do lots of things that don't have logic behind them. So why is that? And how can we make it work to our own benefit? So in sales, the truth is that if you can put emotion on the scales of why someone will buy from you and make a sale, if you put the emotional things which basically excite the chimp in the person, it's 10 times more powerful than the logical reasons, and it often outweighs the hassle, all the problems, issues. So what we need to do is we need to understand how human emotion works and use that to our advantage when we're selling to people. So let's look at fundamental human emotional needs. Okay, so this is borrowed from Tony Robbins. He's a really good guy. Look him up on YouTube and his videos. He talks about personal development and all sorts of things. Really, really good. But I found this really, really useful and when applying it to sales. So let's look at the 6 main emotional needs that humans have. So certainty. So the first thing he talks about is certainty. So as human beings, emotionally, we need to know that things are going to happen. We need to know to be happy. We need to know that we're going to get fed today. We need to know that we're going to have a roof to sleep, to sleep under this evening. We need a bit of certainty, because without certainty, it's not nice. We don't have any peace. We don't have any comfort. So we need that first and foremost. But then he talks about we need uncertainty. We need a little bit of, if everything was just certain, life would be boring, yeah? So life would just be boring if everything was just going to, we knew everything was going to happen. We need a little bit of excitement. We need some things to make us strive a little bit. Then we need growth. So we need to feel like we're growing, because let's face it, if you've been in any situation, if you tread water, like especially in a sales job, if you're just treading water, generally, and just getting by, and you just think, oh, that will be enough, you often find that's the opposite that happens. Just enough often just leads to failure. Like if you're not growing, you're dying, and it just leads to failure. So we need to feel like we're growing. We need to feel we've got a purpose. We need to feel we're really going somewhere. Then he talks about connection, love. I mean, you could say that love, we all feel like we want to be, loved. We all want to feel like we've got somebody special. But also, connection, general human connection. We need a human connection with other people. And that's a really important thing for us as human beings. Contribution. We all want to feel like we're contributing somehow, whether it's to a business, whether it's to society, anything like that. We all feel like we want to actually, have some worth. But then the one that trumps them all is significance. And this is a very powerful one in sales. Everybody wants to feel significant, because if you're significant, you feel special, you feel important. So the biggest fundamental driver of emotion is is something making you feel significant. And this comes back to kind of the image of the logical reasons. Does it make you feel significant? Now, let's think about the chimp again. Let's think about Steve Peters and his chimp paradox. We need to get this chimp really excited. This is the emotional part of our brain. This is the bit of our brain that's in charge at 3 o'clock in the morning. I don't know if any of you suffer from insomnia every now and again, but if you ever have suffered from insomnia, this is the bit of your brain that is in overdrive at 3 o'clock in the morning. Every little sound is something really, really scary. All the things you think about in the future, your job and everything, all become really, really kind of like hyper, super sensitized and crazy. And that's the chimp. That is the chimp in your brain. That's the emotional bit of your brain that's now involved. And again, that's why the fear, etc., is so much more powerful than anything else, because this chimp is powerful. This emotional part of us is powerful. So how can we get that chimp really excited when we put him in the scale, when we're talking to our customer about why they're going to buy from us, and we pop him in that scale? How can we get him excited? How can we get that person not using that logical brain, which 7 times out of 10 won't tip the scale? How can we pop the chimp in there, the excited chimp in there, and make it really urgent? So yeah, there we go. Clues in the word, urgency. If you can make something seem urgent, suddenly the chimp gets excited. Oh no, I need to do something. It's urgent. Quick, I need to do something. Urgency. Massive lever that we can use. We need to include that in all our offers, in all of the things we do in terms of sales. We need to make what we're offering seem urgent to that customer, because that is going to excite that emotional chimp. Scarcity. Now, scarcity is a brilliant one. So if you make something scarce, you make it more valuable. So it's like diamonds. So diamonds, for example, if they were completely abundant, if you just found them in your garden, you just found them in your book, they wouldn't be valuable as they are. But because they're scarce and they take a lot of mining to find them, etc., then they're more valuable. But I'm going to bring it back to a more recent example. So in the COVID-19 pandemic that we've had in recent years, in 2020, then recording this in the early summer of 2020. Does anybody remember what happened when we first heard that we were going into lockdown? What did everybody do? They started panic buying, and they started panic buying ridiculous things. They panic bought toilet roll. You couldn't get a roll of toilet roll for about 4 weeks because everybody suddenly thought it was going to become scarce, and they were paying ridiculous prices to get hold of the toilet roll. Why did they do that? Toilet roll, was it any more valuable? Was it any more valuable this year than it was last year, than it was the year before? No, the only thing that made that valuable and excited our chimp was the fact we thought we weren't going to get any. It was going to have all gone. Somebody else is going to have beaten me to it. Therefore, it becomes really valuable. My chimp's excited. I want it. I'm going to go buy some. And then fear of missing out. Or we could put fear in this. Fear is a massive motivator to the chimp. Fear is much more powerful than a lot of the positive things. If you make somebody really scared, they'll do almost anything. But ethically, in terms of selling, we're not talking about that. We're talking about how can we actually use a lever in sales to make people more likely to do things, excite their chimp and make that chimp want to do something. Fear of missing out. So we've made something urgent. We've made it scarce. And you know what? If you don't do this, ultimately, I'm going to come on to closing later, but ultimately, when you close your customer, what you're saying to them is, ultimately, it's your choice. If you want to miss out, this is urgent, this situation, and there's not many of these situations around, you might miss out. Suddenly, the chimp is really excited. So, here's an exercise for you in the course booklet. I want you to turn to the course booklet after this video. Pause it for a second. I want you to, because this is key. This is absolutely key. In fact, the process I'm about to present to you won't work unless you understand this principle. You need to understand this principle first, and you need to apply this before we go into the next bit. So go to your course booklet and write down all the reasons why someone would buy your product or service. So I want you to write, first and foremost, why would you buy it? Why would you actually buy what you're offering? And I want you to write down all the logical reasons. So remember those logical reasons: finance, performance, image. How are you satisfying one of those requirements? And then I want you to think about the emotional requirements, and in particular, significance. How can you make your customer feel significant by buying your product? Because I assure you, if you do that, you will be successful.